This is Pastor Roger L. Green, Sr., pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We're welcoming you to our worship services on Sunday morning. Sunday school begin at 8 a.m. Worship services begin at 9 a.m. Come and grow with us, a place of faith, family, and fellowship. We would love to have you. Come see us Sunday morning. We'll see you there. Be blessed.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.
Good afternoon, everyone. I said good afternoon, good morning. It seems like it's been an afternoon. I'm Jack here on Let's Talk. Today we're going to continue a conversation we started last night with police juror Randy Wiggins. And we want to try to get an understanding about how did we come about, how did the 4-year ambulance contract come about getting approved in such a short notice. The decision has raised questions about transparency, timing, and how decisions of this scale are made. Joining us today is going to be Rapid Parish Police Juror Sean McGlothin. And the other thing I want to make sure that I'm stating here is that any juror that would like to come on and have a conversation with us about the decision process, all of you guys are more than welcome to always come and help educate the public about the decisions that are being made that impact all of us in the parish. And we don't all have to agree with the decisions that are being made and the way you're voting. But what we do want to do is to make sure we understand what's going on. So with that said, Sean, could you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, I'm Sean McGlothin. I'm a Rapides Parish Police Juror. I represent District G in the city of Alexandria. Jack, thank you for reaching out to me. I think that people need to understand what all is transpired with the ambulance service. And I appreciate when someone wants to gather more information to help educate the citizens of our parish, because it is about public safety. Yesterday, we had a special meeting at the courthouse at 11:30 to discuss extending the contract for Pafford Ambulance Service. So we showed up to the meeting. Basically, we had one motion on the agenda to extend the contract for 4 years. Myself and a couple other jurors wanted to go into an executive session to have in-depth conversation. To do that, we had to have a unanimous vote to go into an executive session because it was not on the agenda. By 6-3 vote, it failed to go into executive session. So we were not allowed to ask in-depth questions and have in-depth discussions. We were only told that we needed to vote yes or no on the contract extension for 4 more years.
Wow. So Sean, what was your reaction when you found out that you guys were going to be voting on this initiative in kind of like a very short, in a short notice? A special meeting was going to be called and you guys would be voting. What was your reaction initially to that?
First of all, I was disappointed in the time frame because it didn't give us much time to find out what all happened in the ambulance advisory committee. Mm-hmm. And secondly, to find out that there was no executive session for us to have in-depth discussion. And then I found out that the advisory board was in an executive session with Pafford Ambulance for an hour and approximately 35 minutes with in-depth questioning conversation. To me, I'm the one that was elected to make these decisions. I didn't have any say-so in creating the advisory board. That was done by leadership. The jury did not get to vote on it. We were just told this is the ambulance advisory board and it is what it is, and we're going to let them review all the documents for Pafford and make recommendations to the jury. Well, at the end of the day, it's just a recommendation, and it's the jury's responsibility to decide yes or no, because it's the contract with Pafford is with the Rapides Parish Police Jury, not the advisory board.
Right. So in essence, the advisory committee had all of the information in front of them, and you guys got maybe a recommendation. I mean, I didn't see the packet that that quote unquote advisory board would have given to you, but you guys had no opportunity to question any of these initiatives in an open kind of forum from
Correct.
the time.
There was not even anyone at the meeting from the ambulance advisory board. Only a list of 3 recommendations from the advisory board. So we were not allowed to question Pafford or the advisory board about how they came about these decisions. And the 3 recommendations basically watered down the contract that we had signed with Pafford a year ago.
When you look at the timeline surrounding this decision, you know, just by and you might have said it, but I want to pull that the answer to your question out. What concern did it raise to you specifically on this timeline?
Well, and I'm going to tell you, Jack, from the very beginning, from this whole ambulance selection in the committee, I've questioned a lot of the decisions that were made. I have continued to ask questions and not ever really been given the answers to my questions that I was looking for. I feel like, so we put out an RFP for ambulance service in the parish, because for 30 years there's been a provider. That provider has been the keeper of their own times, and that, you know, which 30 years ago there wasn't the accessibility to the jury or 911 through technology that would allow us to have a third party person keeping the times. So we just kind of had to go by what Acadian told us while they were the provider in Rapides Parish. So my kind of point from the very beginning is we had a 30-year lesson that we did not learn from. We've kind of put ourselves back in the same scenario where we're letting Pafford keep their own times. We're having to only believe what they're telling us. We have no way of keeping up with it. I feel like instead of moving forward, that we've gone back to where we were 30 years ago, because we didn't learn any lessons. You know, the jury voted to possibly file a lawsuit against Pafford for damages Acadian, for damages that Acadian took for exceptions on their calls, because it was brought to our attention that they didn't report properly. So I thought that we were going in the right direction by being able to call them to the line and say, hey, y'all didn't report correctly. We're going to have a lawsuit, or there's going to be some kind of mediation that where you pay the penalties that were allowed in the contract. So I thought we were kind of making a little headway, but then we get to the new contract. We're allowing them to monitor their own times. Supposedly they were in the contract. It allows them to pay penalties and fines. With that, none of that has been instituted towards Pafford for their past year of not being compliant, and the other breaches of the contract that I personally know about, and I've tried to point out to other jurors, but it's falling on deaf ears.
You know, you mentioned Acadian, and the thing that I want to say is that Acadian do sponsor our Let's Talk and our Sinlaw Goat products. Sinlaw Goat is our sports coverage of everything from K all the way on up to they hand off into the professional realm, and Acadian does sponsor that. and they sponsor this show that we're having right now. But one thing that Acadian doesn't do is they don't jerry pick what we talk about here. And that's why I said initially in the front of the conversation, if any juror would like to have a conversation about the decisions surrounding this, we would just like to make sure that the entire community can understand across the board. And, and it's really important for us that the community is engaged in what's going on in the jury meeting rooms, in the council meeting rooms, and everywhere within the community. With that said, Sean, do you believe this process met the level of transparency that the public is now beginning to demand and expect?
That's kind of a double-edged sword, Jack, because it was not that transparent. They had meetings for months that leading up to the process of picking a provider. However, we all know that the public is not very diligent about following through and attending meetings and stuff like that. So it was not transparent it was not as transparent as I would have liked it to have been. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, the meetings were not attended by many people from the public.
Well, I heard a couple of the jurors say, there was very little participation. But, one of the things that we see there is the fact that, I understood that there was an actual meeting. I think I did get an email. For whatever reason, I didn't see it. And it was kind of like at the last minute. And, sometimes we're in a real busy schedule over here and we don't get an opportunity we're not just sitting there looking at email constantly. But right. In less than 24 hours, it was a meeting happening. I can only imagine the working public out there, even if they wanted to be at the meeting, they wouldn't have been able to get there. And then on top of that, we did, I made the decision on yesterday to just record the thing while it was live on YouTube and then rebroadcast it over here in our space so people could actually get an opportunity to see the meeting takes place. Because as you guys, y'all broadcast live on YouTube, but at the end of the meeting, it's deleted, right? And yes, so even those folk who would be engaged and wanna watch what's going on in the government process can't, because it is deleted. And that's not a hit at you. I just want to be clear and transparent about it.
No, I understand that, and that's why I told you in the beginning I was appreciative that you've reached out to try to gather more information. Mm-hmm. And I also appreciate the fact that you recorded the conversation and you give your viewers a chance to view it on their own time. So mm-hmm. I don't make the rules about how we broadcast live meetings.
Yes, sir.
That's how we do it. And the fact that they're not archived, that's not my call. I think, to be honest with you, that comes from the state level. Mm. But it may be something that needs to be addressed in the future.
Right at the low. Yeah. So you can definitely say that you didn't. Number one, you didn't get your answers. You didn't have enough time to evaluate what you voted on the other day. Is that a true statement?
I wasn't allowed to have the questions and to voice my concerns before we voted. Mm-hmm. They've been in a probationary period for 12 months. They've been non-compliant for 12 months. It's kind of like you're the principal of an elementary school. You hire a sixth grade teacher to teach reading to his class. But at the end of the school year, no one in the class passes reading, but the teacher says, I want to keep my job because my classmates like me. And there needs to be more accountability as far as I'm concerned, especially when it comes to the citizens of Rapides Parish and public safety.
Mm-hmm. That was a report from in this process. It was called the LARP solution report or something to that effect, and it supposedly played a role in evaluating the emergency services providers' performance. Do you believe that report received enough scrutiny from the general public?
I don't. So the report that I read, it's my opinion that it was an AI company that made the report, and I don't think that all the proper contractual information was entered into it. I mean, it gave us a number, which I'm gonna say, according to the information that the AI system had, it reported accurately. However, I don't think the details of the contract and everything else were given to come up with the accurate number for both sides.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that the way that the vote went down, and for those of you guys who are listening in right now, we recorded the entire meeting. So if you want to go take a look at it, just scroll back through our timeline and you'll see it. We know that the end result of y'all's meeting on yesterday didn't result in a unanimous vote. What were the key differences between your opinion, Mr. McGlothin, and your other colleagues? What was their vote for saying, hey, yes?
I want to backtrack for 1 second about the Lark report.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll move forward to your question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was the release of the Lark report. I think it was done strategically to come out the same time as the vote to increase the contract with Parish for 4 more years. I think it was inaccurate as far as the amount of money that's owed, but it was done at the same time to make Acadian Ambulance look bad or worse than they are. Now on with your question. Whenever I got into when I get to the police jury office, I don't go to the president's office. I don't go to the kitchen where everyone else gathers before the meeting. I go into the meeting room, I sit down, I go through the information that's provided to me. And that's how I base how I'm going to go with my votes and stuff for the rest of the meeting. As the other jurors came into the room, I mean, you could kind of sense how the vote was going to go by the majority, by the confidence and their back and forth before we started our meeting. So I wanted to just try to make as many good points as I could before we got to to our vote. And we were kind of rushed by not being allowed to have much discussion and not being able to go in executive session. There were 3 recommendations made by the advisory board. I attempted to add a 4th recommendation or a 4th amendment to the contract, which I thought would better serve the police jury and the citizens of our parish. And that was to get them to hire a third-party timekeeping service, independent, which is required in the contract that there is a third party that monitors the time. And the police jury would set the requirements of how we wanted the times to be monitored from when the time starts to when the ambulance gets on the scene, how long. That's up to us to build that app. Well, I was told that we were not going to add that 4th requirement. It's from a company called First Watch. Mm-hmm. They are active in East Baton Rouge Parish, and they do a lot of areas outside of Houston area. And I found out about it from a friend I went to firefighting school at LSU that's a fireman in East Baton Rouge Parish. I've been looking for the third party option for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I just happened to run into him and asked him what they did. And he told me that's who they used. And for the record, for the audience, I'm a retired firefighter. I'm a long-time 3rd-generation fireman, and I'm a civil servant. And I did that not for the pay. I did that because I wanted to help people. So public safety means a lot to me and my family. So that's why I've been so, I guess, concerned about our ambulance provider in our city and our parish. So I was trying to get everyone on an even playing field by adding a fourth adding a fourth requirement, because and basically I was told that we would send that back to the advisory board and let them make that decision. However, again, it's the police jury's job to make those decisions. It's not the advisory board to make a recommendation and then we decide on that. Even our legal counsel, I shared the link with the First Watch with him. He viewed it. He thought it was something that could work for us and it would be very helpful. In the meeting, he acknowledged that he has seen the app and, or, you know, the details of the app, and that we need to consider that. But still, even with his comments, it was still not allowed to be added to the recommendations by the advisory board. They said we'd have to send it back to them for another recommendation.
Now one of the things that that I heard from Jay and from both of Randy, your colleagues there on the jury, they talked about you represent mainly Alexandria for the most part, as does Jay. They raised a concern about, I think it was the threshold, the response time threshold, if I'm not mistaken, and also the number of assets that were here in the city. Did that cause any concern on by lowering those thresholds and lowering the assets here in the city of Alexandria? Did that raise any concerns for you as well?
Well, it did, because on the motion that was on the agenda, it stated that there would be an ambulance in the Boyce area and an ambulance in the DeVille area, and that would not change. So that just automatically takes 2 ambulances away from responses within the city area. And 70% of all the calls that the ambulance provider makes are either in the city of Alexandria or the city of Pineville. So when you start pulling resources and you start pulling qualified employees and you send them to the rural areas and guarantee to leave them in those areas, that only hurts 70% of your calls that are in the city limits of Pineville and Alexandria. They're the ones, the citizens of Alexandria and Pineville are the ones that are going to suffer the cutbacks. And that's the concern for me, because that's the people that I represent. Ultimately, when I got elected to represent District G, it was also my job to look at the whole parish. So, you know, good for the rural areas that have got these ambulances that are stationed there. However, they may be out there and make 1 or 2 calls a day whenever there's 70, 80 calls to be made in the city limits, which they're going to have to, it's going to delay the responses for the people that live in my district and the people that live in the city of Pineville and Jay's district and Ollie Overton. I mean, Ollie Overton represents a lot of the city limits and the Martin Park area and stuff. You know, it's his citizens are going to pay for that as well.
So that's yeah, he has Ollie Overton and Randy Harris. Both Randy goes from East Alexandria over into Pineville, and Ollie toward the southern part of Alexandria, straight on down toward LSU, that route. Yeah, that is something. Wow.
So, you know, that's, at the end of the day, the people that represent me are the people that I need to speak the most for. I'm responsible for the parish, but I have to represent my small little district in the city limits. And it's concerning for me that if something serious happens in the zone 1, that the responses are going to be delayed. Now, on the other hand, you do have the city of Alexandria, you have the city of Pineville, and you have Rapids Parish Fire District 2 that also responds to emergencies. So there will be someone on the scene quickly to take care of the patient. However, they can't transport patients.
That's right. You know, that all of this being said, now that it's been approved, what we have in play, what should the public be watching closely as we move forward?
They need to be more aware of response times. I mean, I'm going to tell you, most of the people that Pafford has engaged, they have had a good situation. There's been a few bad situations. The firefighters in the parish, they like Pafford because of the way that they're spread out, and that's good for Pafford that they have built these relationships and they're doing a good job. There's not been that many complaints. However, we mirrored our contract after Ouachita Parish. And that's the golden standard. Ouachita Parish is very similar to Rapids Parish. So we thought we were moving ambulance service into the future. The provider in Ouachita Parish has a 90% requirement with 0 exceptions. And the provider in Ouachita Parish, they're making their 90%. Now, 3 weeks ago, we had a discussion with Alex Pafford and about the response times. In the discussion, Alex told Jay Scott that they couldn't afford to put another ambulance on the street to make the 90%. Which, it's a business decision at the end of the day, but also it's public safety, and we can't put money ahead of someone's life. If it were up to me, I would maybe try to do a 1-month probationary period with a dual provider. Bring in 2 companies. Let's see because you get the additional resources to help Pafford with what they can't do, and do a 1 year probation, and at the end of that, reassess and just see if a dual provider works. And I'll tell you, in the beginning of this process, I was against a dual provider. However, I've seen the numbers. I've talked to several places that do dual providers, and I understand it differently than I did a year ago. It can be done. It's being done all around the parish. The state. It's being done in neighboring states to do a dual provider. I just think that at this point in time, we need to look at a different option instead of lowering the standards of the contract that we were trying to get to. And that's all. I just want what's the best responses for the citizens of the parish that I can get, and making the requirements lesser that's not getting us where we need to be. That's backing us up for 30 years. Yeah,
that we did some initial research early in the game as well, and there were the majority of the places where you had private services, they had the ability to have multiple out there. And they appear to be working very successfully throughout the country for that matter. Mr. McGlothin, do you have anything else that you would like to speak to your constituents and the constituents of Rapids Parish in general? Would you like to say anything?
Jack, I'm going to just say I'm going to continue to try to provide the best service that I can for the citizens of the parish. No matter what they are, road and bridge, emergency response, ambulance service. I'm going to try to push forward with the third party monitoring service. I'm going to get with our legal counsel and try to come up with something to provide to the advisory board, and ask them for them to adopt that. ambulance service in Parish is not going to go by the wayside because we extended the contract for 4 years. I'm going to continue to watch it, observe it, read the reports. I mean, and there are ways for us to give fines for lack of response times. There are suggestions that we can make. The places in the contract that Pafford is falling short. We can request the advisory board to recommend that they do this stuff to get up to to where they need to be on the contract. I'm just going to continue to work towards that and do the best job that I can do for the people that I represent in Rapides Parish.
Well, Sean, we certainly appreciate you taking the time. I know you're attending a conference down in Baton Rouge and all over the place right now. I know yesterday when I reached out to you, you were out on a mission working somewhere, and I was calling you and bugging you. But I do appreciate you for taking our call and spending a little time with us to help us understand. And as I stated earlier, we are 100% committed to making sure everybody understands everything that goes on within our parish and trying to foster more civic engagement. I hear Sean sitting here right now talking about the public we're not as engaged as we should be. And so one of the things that we would like to do is make sure that the public is engaged. Again, we want to thank everybody that's out there listening at us right now. And certainly we want to thank our sponsor, Acadian Ambulance. In addition to that, all of our other business partners that we actually have here to make UrbanCast and Let's Talk and Sell Our Goat work. Again, Sean, I definitely want to say thank you for taking the time to come spend it with us.
Well, no, Jack, thank you for reaching out and trying to help better educate the community. Everyone's busy. They can't get to the meetings, and it takes the people like you and other media outlets to try to get them the information that they need to hear. So thank you for doing that.
No worries. If you could hang tight right quick, Sean, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream.
Okay, Jack. Thanks.
All right.
This is Pastor Roger L. Green, Sr., pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We're welcoming you to our worship services on Sunday morning. Sunday school begin at 8 a.m. Worship services begin at 9 a.m. Come and grow with us, a place of faith, family, and fellowship. We would love to have you. Come see us Sunday morning. We'll see you there. Be blessed.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.